I've sold property on the side of a mountain. I made a mistake in due diligence and it's sold. I've sold property that looked like Chernobyl to me and it's sold at the right price. So that's really not the biggest risk. I think the biggest risk is, I think what happens is people create either a job for themselves or they think about it as in a sense that I'm going to test it and then I'm not going to do another deal. I'm not going to buy more property until I sell the property I have. And so what happens is they stop their deal flow and they end up wasting a lot of time. And it becomes frustrating to them in that sense.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Journey to Multifamily Millions. I'm your host, founder and CEO of Zana Investments, Tim Little. And on today's show, we have with us Mark Podolsky. Mark is the author of Dirt Rich, the ultimate guide to investing in land, and he is the owner of Frontier Properties, where he has been buying and selling land full-time since 2001. Mark, welcome to the show.
Tim Little, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it is great to have you. And so I have to say that land is one of the few assets that we have not covered here on the show. So I'm excited to get into it. But before we do that, please tell us how you got started on your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Okay, so let's rewind the tape to 2000. And I was a miserable, micromanaged, 45-minute commute to work and back investment banker, specializing in mergers and acquisitions with private equity groups. And Tim, it got so bad for me, I wouldn't get the Sunday blues, anticipating Monday coming around and having to go to work. I'd get the Friday blues, anticipating the weekend going by really fast and having to be back at work on Monday. So my firm hires this guy, and he's telling me that as a side hustle, he's buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar at tax deed auctions. He's flipping them online and making a 300% return on his money. And Tim, I'm looking at companies all day long. And a great company, has 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow. Average company's 10%. I'm looking at companies all day long, less than 10%. So of course, I don't believe him. So I've got $3,000 saved up for car repairs. I go to New Mexico with him and I buy up 10 half-acre parcels, an average price of $300 each. I flip them online and they all sell for an average price of $1,200 each. It worked. So I took all that money, went to another auction in Arizona, which is where I live. And again, this is 2000 and there's no one in the room and I'm buying up lots and acreage for nothing. I sell all that land and I made over $90,000 cash. So I go to my wife and I said, and she's pregnant. I said, honey, I'm going to quit my job and become a full-time land investor. And she said, absolutely not. So I said, okay. So it took 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income. And then I quit. And I've been doing it full-time ever since. I've done over 6,500 deals now and counting. And I still absolutely love it.
Awesome. So there's a lot to break down there. So basically you had the dream job of any MBA graduate, right? You're an investment banker doing M&A. It sounds the big shot job that anyone would want because we're promised oodles of money. But what we also always hear about that job is how fast people get burnt out because the hours, the pace, working 60, 70 hours, just ridiculous to the point that's why they can't keep talent, right? Most people do it for a couple of years, make good money. Hopefully they save and invest some of that money that they're making in those high paying jobs. And then they get out because of a few of the reasons that you just talked about, the micromanaging, the hours, just the straight burnout. So it's interesting that you were looking at deals all day. They were just a different kind of deal, but you knew what value and investment looked like. So seeing these returns, it sounds like it probably seemed too good to be true at first. Tell me about, is that what you thought when someone first told you about land and you were like, no, those returns just don't make sense? Because it was so outside of the scope of what you were used to seeing.
Yeah, I was really skeptical. And I remember saying, I had $3,000 saved up for car repairs. So I remember thinking, I don't want to lose this money. And I remember having this conversation. And I said to my wife, I'm like, look, let's look at the worst case. The worst case is we own raw land. And even if I can't sell it, I'm not junking up the garage with a bunch of inventory, and I've got something that I don't have to maintain. I don't have to protect. It lasts forever. It can't be destroyed. I'm like, what if I just bartered it with like my dentist and I got free dentistry for a couple years? Or what if I got free haircuts for a long time? I'm sure I could do something with it if I can't sell it. And so she's okay, go do it. And so that's how I reverse engineered the risk reward ratio at that time.
Yeah, and so a lot of it was about taking action, right? You educated yourself clearly on what the risks were, and you determined that even the downside risk wasn't that bad. I guess it goes back to the old adage, right? Buy land because they're not making any more of it. Worst case scenario, you can hold on to it. But let's talk about some of that, what comes along with holding, because you talked about flipping this land. So first tell me about the timelines associated with that, because most people are familiar with house flipping and how they want to get it done quick, right? They're either using high interest loans to buy it, and so they want to get rid of it quickly and turn it around to get that cash so that they can do it all over again. What kind of time periods, what kind of hold are you talking about when you do the flips of land?
Yeah. Okay. Let me walk you through the model step by step. And that way you'll see it really from 30,000 feet. So let's use you as a case study. So Tim, where do you live?
Tampa.
Tampa, Florida. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My partner lives in Tampa. Fantastic. Now, let's assume that you own 5 acres of raw land where I live in Arizona. And let's say that you owe $200 in back taxes. So you're advertising 2 important things to me. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to the raw land. You're in Florida, the property's in Arizona. And number 2, you're financially distressed in some weird way. Because when we don't pay for things like our property taxes, we don't value them in the same way. As a result, the county treasurer keeps sending you notices saying, Tim, if you don't pay your taxes, you're going to lose that property to a tax deed or a tax lien investor. So all I'm going to do is look at the comparable sales on your parcel in Arizona. Let's say it's 5 acres. And let's say that the lowest comparable sale is $10,000 for easy math. I'm going to then, and I'm looking at the last 12 to 18 months for my comparable sale. I'm going to take that lowest comparable sale of $10,000. I'm going to divide by 4. And that's going to get me what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So now I'm going to send you an offer of $2,500 for your 5-acre parcel in Arizona. Now you accept it. Why? Because for you, $2,500 is better than nothing. In reality, 3 to 5% of people are going to accept my quote unquote top dollar offer. But now that you've accepted it, I'm going to go through due diligence or in-depth research. I'm going to confirm you still own the property. I'm going to make sure that back taxes are only $200. I want to make sure there's been no breaks in the chain of title, no liens or encumbrances. So I have this property due diligence checklist that I'm going to outsource to my team in Jamaica. And they're connected to an American title company. It costs about $11. Now, if I was investing more than, say, $5,000, I would close traditionally through a title company. But this is only $2,500. I'm going to take a little bit of title risk. And let's say that everything checks out. I send you a check for $2,300. I send the treasurer a check for $200. I own it free and clear. So now we're going to answer your question. I'm going to sell this property 30 days or less, ideally, and I'm going to make it cash flow like a rental home. So now I'm going to go through my marketing algorithm, and I have a built-in best buyer. So Tim, do you know who it is?
No. I mean, I would imagine developers, but...
Okay, that's not a bad guess. It's the neighbors. So I'm going to send out neighbor letters saying, hey, here's your opportunity. Protect your views. Protect your privacy. Know your neighbor. Oftentimes, the neighbors will buy. If they pass, I'll go to my buyers list. The buyers list passes. I go to a little website you may have heard of. It's called Meta or Facebook. Buy-sell groups in the marketplace. And then I'll go to the lands. Landmodo.com, land.com, landandfarm.com, landsofamerica.com, landcentury.com, landflip.com, landhub.com. These are platforms where people buy and sell raw land. But the secret is in the pricing. So all I'm going to do, ask for a $2,500 down payment. And then I'm going to ask for, let's say, make it a car payment. Let's say $399 a month and 9% interest for the next 60 months. So it's a one-time sale. I'm going to get $2,500. I'm going to get my capital out on the down payment. I could go 6 to 10 months out. And now I'm getting $399 a month and 9% interest over the next 60 months. Tim, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents, And because I'm not dealing with a tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, and the SAFE Act, all this onerous real estate legislation. So then it's a simple game. Can I create enough land notes where my passive income exceeds my fixed expenses, and now I'm working because I want to, not because I have to?
Awesome. Okay. And again, there's a lot to unpack there. How long are those notes that you have on there? You know, you talked about the monthly income. Say it's $399 a month. How long at 9%? How long are those loans for on average?
On average, they're probably about 60 months. We have some notes that are 24 months. We have some notes that are 360 months.
And is there a prepayment penalty?
No prepayment penalty.
Okay, interesting. Sorry, just thinking through it. But yeah, I think that's ideal, right? If you keep stacking on different notes and they each have a monthly income, then that's monthly income to you, and you're already free and clear of your original investment. If not within that first payment, then certainly within a couple of months, I would expect.
Yeah, so I'm just looking to create a river of nickels.
Interesting. Okay. And I guess my concerns would be you're always going to have your problem childs, right? So what if there's these properties that are hard to get rid of? Is the biggest risk there just having to pay the property taxes yourself, or are there other fees associated with ownership of the land?
There could be other fees associated with the land. You could have code violations where if you don't mow the lawn in a certain county, you could get a code violation. But typically speaking, it's going to be property taxes. But to really get to the heart of the question, which is what happens if you can't sell the land? And it's really, to me, a moot point in the sense that I've done this over 6,500 times. I've never been stuck with a piece of raw land because there's a pig for every barn. And as long as you price it correctly, you'll sell that property. I've sold property on the side of a mountain and I made a mistake in due diligence and it's sold. I've sold property that looked like Chernobyl to me and it's sold at the right price. So that's really not the biggest risk. I think the biggest risk is, I think what happens is people create either a job for themselves or they think about it in a sense that I'm going to test it and then I'm not going to do another deal. I'm not going to buy more property until I sell the property I have. And so what happens is they stop their deal flow and they end up wasting a lot of time and it becomes frustrating to them in that sense. So in that scenario, I think there's risk, but I think the biggest risk is not thinking about it in a sense like where they think, oh, if I do one deal, it's going to move the needle. No, this is a volume business. You want to be in the business of buying and selling raw land. And so to be a good business owner, you need systems, you need processes, you need automation, you need team, you need software. And so 90% of this business is automated with inexpensive software on the front end, inexpensive software on the back end called geekpay.io, set and forget it note collection system. And then you have inexpensive virtual assistants that you can either train yourself. There's actually companies that are pre-trained and you start building a machine that you just need to bring money into.
Yeah, and let's talk about that because that's what I was about to ask you about next is these systems and processes and automations. So for your business, what does that look like? Because you already hinted at it a little bit with the team from Jamaica doing some of your due diligence. In terms of sourcing, though, and finding the deals, having that deal flow, is that something that you're having more of a hand in, or are you able to outsource or automate some of that as well?
Yeah, I'm at the point I'm at CEO level. So the machine is just working and I just break things now. So I'll just wake up and say, hey, what if we did this? And everything's working great and I break something. But the way it would work is, let's say you're just starting, right? So the first question is there's 3,007 U.S. counties. Where do I start? And so it's going to be county research. And where I would go for my county research is a website like landmodo.com. And I would see, okay, where are the other land investors buying? Tim, imagine you and I are going to go fishing. And we see on one side of the lake, there's 10 fish, there's 10 boats, and they're all catching fish. And then on the other side of the lake, there's 3 boats, they're not catching any fish. And we have to decide where are we going to go. We might think, oh, let's go be the 4th boat. There's no competition over there compared to the 10 boats over here. But that's counterintuitive because we want to go where we definitively know they're catching fish. So we want to be that 11th boat. And so when we start doing our county research, that's going to be the main factors. Where do I know definitively deals are being done and there's a market there? And then the second question is, can I afford it? So based on my budget, where can I buy 5 to 7 parcels of land? So if I have a $50,000 budget, I know, okay, I can go to this county, I can buy $10,000 parcels of land. But if I only have a $5,000 budget, I need to go and find out where the $1,000 parcels of land are located in rural America and start there, and then start building my bank from that point. And so I think that's really going to be the best starting place for the newbie.
Okay, and that makes sense. Talk a little bit more about what you just said, the parcels of land. And if I'm just getting started, is there, because again, say I don't know anything about land other than what's under my house. What is the minimum, or is there a minimum size, a plot that I should be looking for as I'm starting my research?
Yeah, there's not really a minimum because we want to make our money on the buy. So whether it's a postage stamp or thousands of acres, we just want to make our money on the buy. So if we can buy that asset 25, 30 cents a dollar, we win. There's someone else on the other end of that deal. Even if we had to wholesale it at 100% markup.
And then when it comes to auctions, right? I think people are familiar with auctions after watching a bunch of HGTV shows and stuff like that. Back in the day when people used to auction on houses, sight unseen, and fix and flip, yada, yada. When it comes to land, is there a lot of competition? And I'm sure you're going to say it depends, right, on the location. But assuming that
there's not a lot of competition.
Really?
Because, yeah, think about it. There's billions of acres of raw land available. And to your point, if you go on HGTV or the DIY network, you're not ever going to see a show called Flip This Land.
Yeah.
The before picture's raw land.
Right.
The after picture's raw land.
It's all about the reveal.
Think of you couldn't think of a more boring real estate niche. And you also have to remember, we all need a place to live. Nobody needs a piece of raw land. Now, that being said, 99% of what we have in our lives, we don't need, we want. But ultimately, that's how people think about it when they first start thinking about real estate, is traditional real estate. And they get it. This is something where someone could live, or somewhere I can store my stuff.
Yeah, and I guess, I don't know, it's always hard for me to understand how people, like you said, their priorities, allowing the taxes to pile up and just not pay those. The idea of losing an entire investment over a couple $1,000 worth of taxes just is bonkers to me. And so, who are these
think about
people?
it like this. Yeah, imagine I made you an offer, 25, 30 cents a dollar, for everything in your garage that you're not using. You'd probably be thrilled.
Yeah, I guess, is it just because they don't know or don't want to be bothered with trying to sell it themselves?
They don't want to sell it themselves because they don't know how to. And imagine going to a realtor and they say, oh yeah, that's $8,000 and I'm taking 10%. And then the realtors won't do anything with it because for the realtor, it's not worth their time. And then for the land seller, they don't know how to do it. They might put a for sale sign out there that no one will see that becomes dilapidated. So that offer and the fact that, okay, I can take this money and do something else with it versus year after year paying property taxes, it's not like they're losing it. They're getting something for it because they had a dream one day. And that dream never materialized. And so we hear time and time again, that's why they're selling the property.
I gotcha. It makes sense. One day they're going to build their second house on the other piece or whatever. In terms of how the auction process works, do most counties have websites set up? And if so, what information are they providing you as a potential bidder before you bid on it?
So it's an interesting question because I don't go to auctions anymore. Because I want to get that property before it goes to auction. I don't want to be in a competitive situation. Because if I go to a competitive situation, I'm buying it maybe 80, 90 cents on the dollar. That's no good. But to answer the question is like, where do we get county information would be a website called NACO.org, NACO.org, National County Organization, or I don't know what it means, but NACO.org. And that's every county in the United States. And you can get all the information the treasurer, planning and zoning, assessor information, recorder information. Everything you'll need is at that one site from there.
And all right. So if you're saying you're not going directly to the auction, are you finding the people that are behind on their taxes and intervening prior to it getting to auction? Is that the play?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that's my lowest hanging fruit. And it's public information from the county treasurer
Sure.
who lives out of state and who owes back taxes. But once I'm in a market, I'll go to a website like datatree.com and you can do /the land geek, get a discount. So datatree.com /the land geek, and I can get a list of all the property owners in that specific county. Now, once I get that list, I have to scrub that list out of the people that own homes and commercial property, industrial property, and I can do that by use code. So maybe I'll scrub it by VL, vacant land. Now I've got all the vacant land in that county. And then I'll do another scrub by assessor's parcel number or subdivision because I want to make my pricing per acre. So if I send somebody a price who has 40 acres, somebody that has 5 acres, the same price as someone who has 40 acres, that 40-acre person is going to send me back glitter in the mail. So I want to make sure that I differentiate on those prices and when I send out those offers because I really want to hone in on that 3 to 5% response rate.
Yeah, and you talked about all the different things that you're doing. And in my mind, those are exactly the kind of processes that you can write a clear standard operating procedures for that any good virtual assistant would be able to follow and do all of that for you. Is that right?
100%.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So again, we're getting in the weeds on the process, but I love it because a lot of this, it just like little light bulb went off because it reminds me of back when I was listening to CDs on how to invest in real estate back in circa, 2005. And it was the same idea just for houses, right? You look up the list, who's behind, call them. Here's an offer you can't refuse. I'm helping you out of a bad situation. And yeah, going from there, trying to get it before it ever gets to all the other sharks at the auction, which obviously makes sense. All right. So I guess overcoming objections, right? Mental objections. If you're talking to someone, and you've gone through this a little bit with me already, but if you're talking to someone who's only invested in real estate in the form of, say, those single family properties, or maybe they've invested passively in a multifamily syndication, is this for them or is this for the person who wants to do it themselves and build out the systems, but they still have to be very involved in it, at least up front?
Yeah, I want to help everyone along the economic spectrum. So if you've got lots of time and no money, I'm going to give you this information for free. If you got a good W-2 and you want a side hustle, I'll do it with you. And if you want one-on-one coaching, we can do that for you as well. If you're an accredited investor and you're rich and you become wealthy, then we have a done-for-you program as well, and I can talk to them one-on-one. But it depends on somebody's goals, time, capital, skill set, ambition. It's a hard question for me to answer, but I would say that my mission is to help as many people as I can become totally free, which means that they've solved their money problems and their time problems, and they haven't built another job for themselves.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like how you broke it down into the different categories because then everyone is able to see themselves in those different categories wherever they are on that spectrum. And I guess the other thing that I wanted to ask was, again, I start thinking through if I was to start doing this right now, do you recommend that people start looking in their backyard first just because they're more familiar with it? Or
Right.
do you say that state you live in or that county you live in, trust me, it's not going to make sense. Go look out in the boondocks over here. Or how does that look? And are you able to coach them on locations? Because it's hard to be an expert on everything, on everywhere. So
Right.
What,
But
what
let's
is
just
the
start.
recommendation?
Yeah, let's just start philosophically, right? Tim, nobody wakes up and thinks to themselves, boy, I'd like some raw land in Iowa today, unless you live in
In
Iowa.
Iowa, right.
So we want to get the biggest buyer pool. So let's focus on those sunshine states: Arizona, Colorado, Texas, New Mexico, Nevada, California, Oregon, Washington, your state, Florida, parts of the Midwest. But let's pick on your county or your state, right? Florida. Now, if I said to you, start in Tampa, you say, oh, Mark, great. I'll start making offers in Tampa. What do you think your response rate's going to be for infill lots in Tampa? It's not going to be great. I can tell you right now.
No.
Same thing in Phoenix or Scottsdale,
Right.
because if I've got a piece of raw land in Tampa, I'm going to go to the biggest, baddest land broker in town. Right. I'll sell that thing 110, 120 cents on the dollar. I'm not getting it 30 cents on the dollar. So we want to go to rural areas in Florida. And again, we're going to find those markets on a website like landmodo.com and do there. Look, I'm not saying that you can't do different models in Tampa with land, but it's just not my model.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And that's exactly where I was going to go with it. Obviously, some markets are going to be prohibitively expensive and just wouldn't lend themselves to this model. So I appreciate you clearing that up.
Right.
All right. And you alluded to some of the products that you offer, one of which is coaching. And so I wanted to hit on that a little bit. And one of the things that I think about when it comes to coaching is, hey, when multifamily, for example, right? Like, I know a lot about multifamily, and we joke, especially in the military, that if you're 10% smarter than everyone else in the room, you're the expert. I know a lot more than most people when it comes to investing in multifamily, but I haven't gotten to that point yet where I feel comfortable coaching, and that may be on me, because I've heard a lot of coaches say, hey, if you're not coaching people, then you're doing them a disservice because you're not allowing them to benefit from the knowledge and the experience that you have. So I just wanted to get your perspective on coaching, like you said, philosophically. Was there a point where you thought to yourself that you were comfortable and confident enough to start coaching other people and showing them how they could do this too?
Yeah, it took 11 years for me to feel like I'm an expert, and I didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to coach people. So I'm on vacation in Northern California with my family, and I got a phone call. And this guy, Tori, calls me, and he's on my website, and I think he wants to buy a piece of raw land. But he's like, hey, I'm on your website. This is really interesting to me. I'd like you to teach me how to do what you do. And I said, I don't teach people this. He's like, what if I pay you this? I'm like, oh, interesting. I said, let me think about it. So I go to my wife. I'm like, hey, this guy wants me to teach him the land business. And she's like, why would you do that? Why would you create your own competition? So I said, good point. Let's do some calculating, and let's put on our investment banker hats. How big is this market? And so when I did the calculation, and there's billions of acres of raw land available, and then I thought, who are the players? There's no private equity groups. There's no hedge funds. So there's no big money in it. I figured out, okay, I can help this guy. No problem. It's not going to hurt my business. And what I discovered was on his first deal, he made $300,000. It changed his life. And the feeling that I got is indescribable. It was so much more gratifying than any deal that I personally have done. And I'm like, this is amazing. And so to free somebody and change the trajectory of someone's life is why I do it. And I feel way more satisfied when you make money than when I make money. Don't get me wrong. I love my land business, and it supports my family. It helps my family. But to be that pebble in the pond and impact other people, it's the most satisfying thing I've done professionally. And I really feel like I've helped enough people now where I could die in peace. So to answer the question then is, number one, do you feel that way? There's a great book called The Second Mountain by David Brooks. And so the first mountain is egoic, and we all climb it, right? Our parents tell us to get a good education, get a good job. We go and we do what culture says to do. We acquire the things that we think are going to make us happy. So we get the big house, we get the nice cars, we go on the nice vacations. And if we're lucky, we get to the top of that mountain and it feels empty. So then we go to the second mountain. And the second mountain is about vocation. It's about your community. It's about your faith and spirituality. It's about your relationships, love, intimacy. And it's a way harder mountain to climb, but it's much more fulfilling. When you get to that point in your own life where you can say to yourself, I'm an expert in this. I'm not good at this, I'm an expert in this. I've done it long enough. I've gone through many economic cycles, and I have road rash. I've lost millions of dollars learning what I've learned in over those years, where I could help other people not lose millions of dollars. If you've done that, then I would say go ahead and be a second mountain person and make it your vocation. If you're just doing it for the money because you're like, oh, this is a good revenue source, you're going to get up that mountain and it's going to be empty and you're going to end up with a community that you don't like.
Yeah,
So
no,
I wouldn't recommend it.
I love that. And I agree. I think the losses, the road rash that you talk about, that's one of the aspects that we don't talk about a lot in any of these businesses, right? Everyone expects that you have a pristine record. But if you've been doing it long enough, you can't tell me that you haven't made a mistake here or there, learned from it, hopefully taken it, incorporated those lessons, and then moved on. So I think that's a huge piece that a lot of people just gloss over. So I'm glad you mentioned it. All right. That was an awesome section right there. But we do need to move on to the turbo round. So are you ready for that, Mark?
I'm ready.
All right.
I should wipe off the brow of sweat.
Yeah. All right. First question. What is one red flag every investor should look out for?
One red flag every investor should look out for is, why am I seeing this deal? When I first started, I remember I met with a mentor, and I was going to look at another real estate niche. And this guy had been doing it for 20 years. He's, Mark, why would you see that deal? So I would say the red flag would be, why are you seeing that deal if you're going into an area where there's experts? Now, in the land business, it's massive, but I could imagine in other niches where it's way more competitive, ask yourself, why am I seeing this deal?
Okay, awesome. Makes sense. Next question. What is a myth about this business that you would like to set straight?
It's easy. Yeah, nothing's easy. Anything worth doing isn't easy. There's no get rich quick. This is a simpler real estate model, but it ain't easy. And if your expectation is any business, anything in real estate, any money-making thing is going to be easy or get rich quick, that's a myth. It just does not exist. Even crypto, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, I
couldn't. And it shouldn't exist.
Right. Because if it does, the risk is so high that is it worth taking? Yeah. No,
it wouldn't be satisfying in the end.
That's true too. A lot of it is about the journey, right? I agree. And that's one thing I always emphasize with real estate in general. This is not a get-rich-quick plan, scheme, whatever word you want. I hate using the word scheme. Investing method. It is a get rich over time. And that's why, for me, like the red flag is if someone is saying it's get rich quick. So run away if they say that. All right, final question. What does success look like to you?
Okay, do you want the long answer or the short answer?
We got a few minutes.
You want the long answer?
Sure.
All right, I'm going to look it up because I actually wrote this down. And where is it here? Okay, here it is. It is 23 things. I know I'm successful when I can work when I want, where I want, and with whom I want. Saturday and Monday are the same days. I have total control of my time and schedule. I only take on projects that fulfill me intellectually and spiritually. I've helped over 1,000 people escape solo economic dependency. I have all the things money can't buy: a fit body, a calm mind, a house full of love. I don't self-soothe with distractions like work, social media, and television. When uncomfortable feelings arise, I just feel them. I no longer care what people think. I don't compare myself to others. I'm constantly investing in my self-development, mentally, physically, and spiritually, to be the best possible version of myself. I enjoy all my relationships and quickly avoid toxic personal and business relationships. I live by the golden rule, and when I inevitably don't, I quickly make amends. I don't blame, criticize, or judge others harshly. I have compassion for everyone, yet don't let myself be taken advantage of. I have total responsibility for everything. I take total responsibility for everything that happens in my life. I'm generous with a full heart to others, with no expectations of reciprocation. I'm my own best company. Fear doesn't stop me from growing into a better version of myself. I forgive myself and others easily. I don't mind what happens. On my deathbed, I know you're like, this is the craziest, longest answer ever.
No.
On my deathbed, I'll be surrounded by my loved ones, and they'll say I was a good ancestor and made a positive difference in their lives and others. My driving motives are no longer money, success, or the approval of others I just serve. I aspire to live in a constant state of love for life, gratitude, and awe. I don't fight what is, yet have the will to change what I can.
All right. I really liked the Saturday and Monday are the same days. It just hit me. I'm like, oh, like that's deep, but I get it. And I think listening to your whole list, there was a lot of familiar stuff in there, a lot of stuff that's personal to you. But I think what it says to me is that success is not a destination, because all of those things that you talked about, it's a constant striving, right? We never expect it. I don't think you expect to just go down and start checking off that list. Yep, done. Okay, only got a few more things on my success checklist, and I'll be, these are things that you can strive throughout your whole life for. And I think it's really good to have those guardrails and have them written out, which is something that not a lot of us do. But to have those reminders that you can refer to, like you just did, anytime you need to keep yourself straight, I think is an important lesson that a lot of folks should think about.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'll never get there, but I will die trying.
All right. Hey, Mark, this got a lot deeper than I expected in a conversation about investing in land, but I'm here for it. So please tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you, and if you have anything else that you'd like to share with them.
Sure. The best place, I think, to learn more is thelandgeek.com. And Tim, I gave you a link where your listeners can get the book Dirt Rich for free, just pay shipping. And if this model resonates with them, they can learn more and start there.
All right, awesome. We will have all that information in the show notes. I appreciate you coming on and look forward to continuing to do big things on your journey. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Tim.